Hi there, I'm Blair Cook.
And I'm Jen Nicholson.
And the question we want to ask you is, what kind of world do you want to live in?
The challenges facing us have never been greater than they are right now. We're dealing with climate change, with pandemics and vast unemployment, civil rights challenges of our foundational institutions. The wrong behavior, the wrong tweet, the wrong decision is amplified and magnified.
One slip and you can find yourself fired, blacklisted, and sometimes indicted for what in the past may have gone unnoticed. The expectation of leaders today has never been higher. It's against this backdrop that we are going to explore leadership.
The world is sorely lacking in leaders, in particular of the ethical variety. The opposite, destructive leadership, is often corrupt and divisive, and is all too common. Those leaders driven by self-interest, greed, and power.
Today's course is intended to shake the foundations of what you know and perceive of leadership. We will show you how ethical leaders can create a compelling point of competitive advantage.
If you still hold the mantra that the purpose of business is to maximize shareholder value, be forewarned, your world has shifted.
The world is desperate for ethically principled leaders. Where are the Winston Churchills and the Martin Luther Kings of the modern era?
Enroll now to learn the principles of ethical leadership, and perhaps all of us can, in our own way, contribute toward addressing today's challenges.
We look forward to greeting you more formally inside the course.
See you there.
Whatever you do will be insignificant, but it is very important that you do it. Gandhi.
We are so glad that you could join us for this course on ethical leadership. Jen and I have written this course with the firm belief that it might be our most important contribution to the profession and the world. Our journey started over 5 years ago when we set out to write a course on ethics to largely meet a market opportunity. That is the mandatory ethics training for professional accountants.
What I can tell you now is that as we've peeled this onion back dozens and dozens of layers over the years, what we have learned has changed us. It's changed how we live our lives. It's changed how we lead our teams and the organizations that hire us. It's changed how we communicate, what we say, and who we do business with. It's become the thing that we focused much of our research and discussion on.
Neither of us are going to profess to you to be ethics experts ourselves. I'm not sure anyone can say that with a straight face, that they're an ethics expert or an ethics educator or a practitioner of ethical leadership, but we are most certainly ethics enthusiasts on a journey that I believe will continue throughout our lives.
So as you listen to us throughout this course, think of us as facilitators of a conversation on ethical leadership. Consider our ideas, challenge our ideas, comment on our ideas. Some ideas will strengthen what you already know and believe. Others may open your eyes to a different perspective on leadership. Adopt the principles that resonate with you, and we welcome your feedback on those that don't.
The primary learning objective of today's course is really to engage you, to inspire you, to elevate ethical leadership in your own lives. We hope that you remember the people and the stories we share and the principles they embody. Perhaps you'll find yourself in a similar situation in your own lives, and it is our sincere hope that you will recall today's conversation and choose an enlightened approach.
With that message in mind, let's begin. The more you study ethics and take an interest in the subject matter, we're convinced that the more you'll recognize ethical challenges all around you and see just how pervasive ethical issues really are. Once you put on your ethical lens, the world around you looks different somehow. Some of those differences will change how you act and behave, how you make decisions, how you communicate with others, how you listen and evaluate messages from others, particularly leaders, such as our CEOs, our politicians, the media, and our celebrity idols. Ultimately, how you choose to live your life and determine what principles you live by and share with others. Ethical dilemmas are not narrowly defined situations applied in neat packaged boxes, as perhaps many of you, like we did at one point not so long ago, believe. Ethics is like the air we breathe. It surrounds us all the time. Sometimes that air is clean and fresh, and other times It's polluted and full of toxins that may be detrimental to our personal and professional health. Ethics arises from the intangible quality it represents. What is ethical to one person may be more or less to another. The standards by which ethics are evaluated are different depending on context, culture, and geography. In some places in the world, societal issues such as child labor and pollution controls are weighted on different ethical scales. Ethical beliefs are malformed and distorted in many parts of the world. Dictators take power and wealth for themselves rather than their citizens. As a result, ethical failures flourish in society, including issues of discrimination, sexism, racism, harassment, favoritism. The list goes on and on. The more polluted the ethical air, the deeper the ethical travesties.
In this course, we're going to provide you with a framework for evaluating and elevating your own ethical leadership. Both Jen and I truly hope to contribute a small, incremental voice to raise up humankind. We can do better as professional accountants, better as keepers of the public trust. We are well positioned to lead in this regard, to lead ourselves, to lead our teams, to lead the organizations in the world at large. Throughout today's course, we will reference this depiction of ethical leadership and explore its various facets. Now, we're going to refer to the graphic that you see on the screen now as your own moral compass. We will explain it in more detail in the lessons to come. Conscious leadership is a leadership model based on knowing at any given point in time where you are in a leadership framework. And in knowing where you are, it helps you determine what to do next. And so this moral compass is just such a tool.
And it's great when we're conscious of what we're doing, but many of the time we aren't conscious. And we firmly believe that the majority of people in the world today hold the principles you will learn in this course at heart. We don't expect many people to dispute these principles. However, you're quite free to do so. And in fact, we would encourage you to challenge these ideas and contribute to the discussion. For many of us, we've learned to navigate today's world, but recognize that there remain injustices and inequalities. But here's the first myth, and it's not up for debate. We all suffer from both conscious bias and unconscious bias. The sooner you accept that statement, the more quickly we can move to a conversation about how we overcome bias, because that is the crux of ethical leadership.
The principles we discuss in this course are not going to be technically challenging to learn, but they are going to be extremely difficult for you to practice universally. And to do so is going to require us to question our own beliefs, our own behaviors, which perhaps have been wildly beneficial to us during our careers. What we are going to ask you to do is to step back and recognize that every one of us can be better. I don't care who you are. We all have ethical blind spots.
The biggest threat of ethical leadership boils down to a leader's ability to overcome their self-interest bias. Self-interest can exist at a personal level, team level, or even an organizational level. We cannot live without money, which we all know, and this typically comes from a paycheck of one form or another. An organization cannot survive without profits, but recognize that money and power confuse our moral compass and create self-interest bias. When we fail to recognize and manage our own self-interest bias, yet others do, it can not only be dangerous for our own reputation, it may unwittingly undermine the motivation and commitment of those we lead, as we will learn in our next lesson.
So to help you in this regard, our first exercise will be to have you spend a few minutes to complete the self-awareness quiz that accompanies this lesson. Do not start the next lesson until you do so. And we won't ask you to share your answers, but it's important for all of us to open ourselves up to this idea that we're all imperfect leaders and can learn.